This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of December 16th, 2019. I think the week is kind of the last one for a lot of people who are thinking of winding down for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays and the new year coming up. We will still be here. Our offices are closed on the two following Wednesdays for 25th and the 1st, but I will be here giving you the best quality entertainment and information that I possibly can. That's my promise to you. You know, last week, I discovered that, well, in a way, I'd kind of dropped the ball, but not for very long, but just a little bit. I found out that the Super Bowl is going to be broadcast in 4K this coming year. And that's something that's incredibly exciting. And yet I found this about a week late. I had to dig through a transcript of a Fox call, and it was mentioned almost in passing. It was it was on page 3 of the transcript and one sentence really. And it kind of makes you wonder, because this is big news for football fans, right? This is something that people have been asking for. My article about whether or not the 19 Super Bowl would be in 4K was one of the most read articles of the year on the Solid Signal blog, blog.solidsignal.com. And so it makes me wonder why Fox would bury this kind of information. Well, let's first start and talk about why the Super Bowl has not been in 4K in the past. And it's not satellite distribution. It's not even the cameras, because I think that we all know at this point that CBS and Fox are using 4K cameras on the field so that they can do some of those incredibly complex zoom shots that they do. In some cases, I think that they're using even 8K cameras to be able to put cameras wherever they want to. And using these incredibly long lenses, they can get views that seem utterly impossible, because you don't really see cameras on the field. You occasionally see that one that's strung all the way across, but for the most part, you barely see them, and yet they seem to be everywhere. No, I think the problem has been commercials. The Super Bowl is the most watched sporting event of the year consistently, and it's the biggest moneymaker for commercials, because you've got commercials that sell between $1.3 million and $1.6 million for 30 seconds. That's a lot of revenue to walk away from. If you remember in the past when DirecTV and others used to do live 4K broadcast, they could not incorporate the commercials, and what you got kind of instead was just the pure field experience. I think it was a lot of technology to upsample those commercials, insert them into the stream, and then send them back down. Well, obviously that's been solved, and if I had to guess, I would say that the entire program is being produced completely in 4K, that all the commercials that will be provided, at least all the national commercials, will be provided in 4K or upsampled to 4K, and that the 4K stream will be provided concurrently with an HD stream that's sent to your local Fox affiliate. At least that's how I would do it, and I think that makes the most sense, and technology gets better and better every year, and I think that the technology to do that in real time is now here, and it's inexpensive enough that they can do it. So that solves that problem. The real question is, how is it going to be distributed? Obviously, I think you're going to get commercials wherever you see it, but it's interesting to note that neither DirecTV nor Dish nor Comcast, and these are the three major providers that have 4K, have announced the 4K Super Bowl at this point. It could be waiting until the off season in order to really kind of push it. They may feel like it's old news if they start now, but that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for DirecTV, who starts pushing Sunday Ticket in May and June. I think the truth is that we're not sure yet, and maybe they're not sure yet exactly how it's going to go, where on the satellites it's going to live, and how it's going to be provided. And so there's also the possibility that this is going to bypass these major providers and it's going to be streaming only. This is a possibility. I think that if the Fox Sports app supports it, you might see it there. That would still deprive local broadcasters of some revenue, and I think that there would be a lot of complaints there. And any way this is done, it's going to deprive local broadcasters of revenue, because you're either going to get a single national broadcast or nothing, which means that local broadcasters aren't getting that money put in. Obviously, that's something that everybody seems like they can live with this year. But is it going to be streaming only? Let me say it wouldn't surprise me based on the lack of promotion that's taken place so far, but I hope not. And I hope not, because if it's streaming only, I'm going to forecast that it's going to be a major disaster. I mean, this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to want to stream, and that might not go so well. I will say if it does stream, it will be a multicast. In other words, it's going to be a live broadcast that you can't pause or fast forward or record or get an instant replay on, nothing like that. Because it would be impossible to have a million live streams going all at one time and just have that kind of work. No, a multicast solution makes it a lot easier for a lot of people to see the same stream at the same time without having to worry about providing it several million individual times. It's still going to be taxing on the internet service providers, and your local ISP might not be able to make it through. But the biggest problem I see is that it might not be that good. Remember that sports is a very fast-moving thing, and especially football. You've got a lot of tiny little things that are moving really fast, and you've got to capture all of that, process it, and then send it up to the satellite in 4K, all in real time, which means there really isn't time for significant post-processing, which can really improve the picture quality. So I expect that the streaming quality of this is going to be worse even than if it were broadcast live. If it's broadcast live, you're still suffering from all of the problems that are taking place down on the field when they're trying to put it all together. But you're not worried about the post-processing that's taking place when you go ahead and try to put that over the internet. I hope that we get an announcement fairly soon that says DirecTV or Dish are going to be covering this in 4K, and they're going to do it live, and they're not going to make it pay-per-view or anything silly like that. I hope that we see that. I hope we see it very soon, because that's the way that you're going to want to watch it. Personally, even though it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, I guess I would rather have DVR for the Super Bowl than have a 4K live stream. Sure, seeing it first, seeing it now, seeing it in 4K is fabulous. But, there are going to be times that I want to use that DVR feature. I've been a DVR user now for almost 20 years. I've gotten accustomed to it. And the idea that I might just have to surrender my DVR privileges in order to watch the Super Bowl in 4K, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm hoping that this is going to be a win for everybody, that DirecTV is going to carry it, and that it's just going to be on one of the regular channels. And as soon as I get that information, I'll pass it along to you. I'm not interested in a 4K streaming solution for the Super Bowl. I just don't think it's going to be that good. And on top of which, it's not going to let me instant replay, which I've gotten very accustomed to. That's about it for me for the podcast this week. Be thinking along with me that good thoughts, that Super Bowl 4K is going to be everything that we really want out of it, because we have been waiting so long. Also, that it's not the only time it ever happens, and that it continues to get better and better. One more thing for those who have been listening through this podcast. I'd like to thank all of the folks who clicked on subscribe or like on our YouTube channel in the last month. We did actually get about an 18% bump in subscribers, which is really good for 1 month. I tend to not want to just bury you with requests to like and subscribe and stuff like that, but you're doing your part. If you haven't subscribe to the Solid Signal podcast or to our YouTube channel yet, please do, because it helps me out. It makes me look better. And, all it does is give you a little notification that something's available. It doesn't really obligate you to do anything. You're just helping out your old pal Stuart, makes him look good to his bosses. And when that happens, I get to do more content that works for everybody, more stuff that you want to hear, more stuff that you want to see. That's about it for me for the podcast. I will see you back here next week.